Hey everyone. All right. How is everybody doing? Hopefully pretty good. Hopefully you've got some green on for St. Patrick's Day, or you've got yourself a good green drink or something. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday afternoon for another installment of Startup Grind in New York City. This time with a founder who knows a thing or two about how we're going to build this crazy future that we're all going to live in. My name is Joshua Ness. I'm the director here at Startup Grind New York City. I'm also a senior manager at Verizon 5G Labs, where I work with startups, academia, and enterprise teams to build a 5G-powered world. Startup Grind is the world's largest community of startups, founders, innovators, and creators, bringing like-minded and diverse individuals together to give startups everywhere the education, opportunities, and access they need to build, grow, and scale their companies. Part of being on the Startup Grind team means having meaningful conversations like this that address certain aspects of building a company and how to deal with the grind that goes along with entrepreneurship. We also talk to experts about the advancement of technology, as well as exploring barriers to inclusion and how to create opportunities for representation and allyship in the community. We're also excited to announce that we'll be hosting the Startup Grind Global Conference live in Redwood City, California later this year. After the past challenging couple of years, we're looking forward to the opportunity to reconnect with our global family in a more intimate setting. I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can learn more about that. This year, Startup Grind Global is going truly global with a one-of-a-kind decentralized conference, a word that if you haven't heard that a lot in the past few weeks, you're probably going to start hearing it more and more. We'll be hosting over 50 satellite events in Startup Grind chapters around the world during the week leading up to our on-site conference event in Silicon Valley, April 12th and 13th of this year. Overall, 15,000 community members, both live and online, will come together to learn about and explore the next wave of the web, bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3, and building human-centric products, impacting diverse communities, and lots more. So go ahead and click on the link in the chat for more information and to register today. Having said all that, I am excited to introduce Jay Lee from NAVER Z, the makers of Zepeto. Jay, how's it going today, man? How you doing?
Good. I'm super excited to connect with all these, founders and, who are interested in startup space and, maybe in the metaverse. Yeah, I'm super pumped.
Yeah, the metaverse. We are going to talk about that. So Jay, tell me real quick about who are you and what is Zepeto and how did you get to where you are right now? Just a quick couple of minutes, set the stage for us.
Sure. We can start with the fun fact. I was a full-time music producer / singer back in South Korea until I turned 26. So I know a little bit of, what it's like to be an independent creator, longing for a chance to be discovered and, find people who would appreciate my work. In my mid 20s, I got into tech and I've been wearing multiple hats, working on various products from games to utility apps, social media, video editing tools, camera apps. And currently I'm heading the Zepeto US team. It's NAVER Z USA, the entity name wise. Zepeto, depending on who you ask, you may get a kind of different answers. It's a community where you can explore and express your identities through virtual avatars / characters. And connect with people through various activities in the 3D space. Some, call it a metaverse. Some call it an avatar-based social media. Some call it a gaming or UGC platform. Some call it a 3D content creation tool. But most of our users just call it Zepeto. So who cares what it is? Whatever you call it, we'll go with it.
Yeah, I know that when people talk about the metaverse, they are I've done surveys with this with my day job and found that for the most part, people equate metaverse with VR. They think of it the same exact thing. I particularly don't agree. I'd be eager to hear what you have to say about that. But the idea is that the fact is that there's not going to be one single platform for this. Maybe there will be one day, but It is very much a decentralized experience where these experiences are not necessarily interoperable. And I think that has implications for brands. And I know that we're going to get to that in a little bit, because what happens in one metaverse platform does not necessarily translate to another metaverse platform. If you do something in Facebook Horizons, it's not necessarily going to carry over to Microsoft's AltSpace platform, where I've spent quite a bit of my time with one of our previous guests, Tracy Wong, who took it upon herself to show me all about the AltSpace platform, and spend some time in there. I think you know her too, right?
Oh yeah. She's
cool.
Part of our
As
team
we kick
now.
things off, for the folks in the audience, please go ahead and make sure to drop your questions in the chat. We'll be answering those throughout today's conversation. We're probably not going to have like a dedicated Q&A portion at the end. So to get started, Jay, it sounds like you've always been interested in creating new and exciting things, from music to all of the different entrepreneur hats that you've worn. How did you get started doing that? Like, when did you realize that you need to be a builder?
Oh, that's a good question. I think when I was an elementary school student, I was into computer programming. Back then, people didn't say like software engineering; it was just computer programming. I was somehow fascinated by what I could do with the 286 XT computer. Messing with the QBasic, Turbo C, kind of old, outdated languages, and building like journals. All this kind of apps. I was into that, but when I was like 15, I somehow, my interest just totally has shifted to music. So I was like, until 26, I was like, okay, my identity is a music guy, and I was like just like a startup founder. I just pursued my music career full time, grind, hard work, and I realized that I did all my best. I don't have no regrets to make it. It doesn't seem like I'm talented enough to pay my bills just doing the music thing. And it was very kind of random moment, and that I got into tech because I had a surfer friend, and he was like, "Hey, I'm working on this iPod Touch / iPhone apps." That was back in like late 2008, like 2008. There was no iPhone in Korea. And when he was talking about this iPod Touch, iPhone apps, I was like, what are you talking about? I have this kind of flip phone, right? Like, I know WAP, and, like, what is this all about? And he was like, hey, like, people are crazy about this iBeer, iGun, kind of like wacky ideas and this app sold, got sold a lot, and there's a new future. And I was like, okay, tell me more about it. And he just got me into the tech space, and I met with all these people from like internet industry, like community and game studios, publishers. We're all kind of gathered together to talk about this new potential of like mobile era like beginning. And we were like, okay, this sounds interesting. And yeah, that's how I got into tech. It was very random. I didn't like plan it or like apply for jobs. Just through a friend who's a surfer / a designer professionally. Yeah, it all began like that way. And ever since, yeah, I joined the company as a like composer / sound designer because I was a music guy. So they were like, hey, you can design the sound effect for this gun game or fan thing, and the the background music for games. And I was like, sure. I mean, that's right in my alley. I could totally do that. And then like the beauty of working at a startup, you can get to wear multiple hats. So I touched a little bit of like UX design role and the product designer role. So worked on kind of many different apps, and my career just got evolved like through a lot of kind of random choices on my plate. And yeah, like that just happened.
Yeah, I remember my moment that was similar to that was when a friend that I used to race cars with told me about Bitcoin. And this was back in I think 2013 or so. And I did not take him as seriously as you took your friend, as is evidenced by the modest apartment that you see behind me in Brooklyn. It's safe to say that his current digs are not quite as modest as mine. Wish I had taken him seriously when he was telling me about like the next big thing to get behind. Still sometimes wonder like what might have happened if I had, but here we are. All right. No, that's pretty cool, man. It's cool that like you have been on the lookout for opportunities and have capitalized on them where you can, even if that means a full career shift. And I think that is probably a quality that's going to continue to serve you, especially as we're entering this phase of transformation with regards to the internet and the way that we consume information and interact with each other and things like that. So shifting gears slightly to Zepeto itself, how did Zepeto get started? Because it sounds like it's a leading, well, not leading, but like an early what is now known as like a metaverse environment. People might call it VR, or they might call it, like you said, 3D interaction based. How did it get started? Like, what was the original vision for it? Was it meant to be consumed just on 2D? Was there always aspirations of having it be available like in a headset for a fully immersive experience? Like, what was the vision behind that?
Yeah, in all transparency, when Zepeto was first born, I was not there. So it's back into 2018, and I joined the company in 2020. So I could just only speak about what I heard from the founding members of the Zepeto team. We got spun off from our parent entity. So in 2018, it started as a kind of 3D Bitmoji. So you create you create and customize your avatar and create this, expressions that you can use on, social media and the messaging platforms. That's how it began. And then we found, the team found out users did their own kind of dress up challenges and, own like interesting activities, like group activities on social media space. So we just kept listening what our users were looking for. And so we started adding social elements to the product, and our users kept complaining about, this 3D background, 2D background. My avatar's 3D, the background is 2D. I don't like it. Give me the full 3D background so I can shift the camera angle and take virtual selfies and all that. And then I want more interactive experiences. I want more kind of game-like experiences. Hey, like keeping up with these various demands that users have, because users are looking for more unique items that don't exist in the real world, and they want to express themselves through just unique offerings. And then so we decided to open up the platform to anybody who can do the 3D modeling. And yeah, that was back in April 2020. So now, starting from a tool, it got evolved into a social media, and there were kind of gaming elements added to it, and it became a platform. Now, as of October last year, user-generated items revenue surpassed the official item revenue. So now it's truly, a UGC platform. It's a, player-to-player, customer-to-customer economy now.
Oh, interesting. So you mentioned opening up the platform. So can anyone go in and design and develop their own world within the Zepeto environment?
Yeah, so they can design their own clothing items, like accessories, like jackets, dress, anything you can wear, as well as the world and environment and the experiences, and they can monetize it.
Okay. What was the last thing you said? They could monetize it?
They can monetize it, yeah.
How does that work? How does the monetization work?
It's similar to Roblox model. You design your own item and submit to the marketplace, basically. And per sale, we do the revenue share. And some of the few top creators have been making more than $100,000 a month from the item sales alone. I'm talking about their portion, not the whole revenue.
I'm in the wrong industry, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Do you feel like your experience as a music producer and as a musician prepared you to lead the U.S. operations of this new company? Do you feel like there are some crossover skills that you've been able to bring with you?
Oh, I think in terms of like an empathy, like knowing what it's like to be a creator, uh, and being able to understand their position. I mean, because and when you are an independent artist, growing your fan base, growing your influence, let's say, you're more interested in making more connections than making money right away, right? So, for
Mhm.
example, when I was doing my music as an unsigned artist, I was not interested in making money off of like a streaming, count or loyalty, all this kind of thing. But I was more interested in what does it take to get added to people's playlist. I don't need to be paid. I just want people to hear my song and get to know about me and my work, right? And then the other opportunity, that kind of mentality as a creator too. I think that helps. Other than that, kind of general understanding of the industry, management. There's a label, there's a publisher, and that applies to the other industries like gaming. And there's there are a group of people who create content, who deals with the publishing and the management of the logistics. And there's a streaming platform or content playback, like OTT, all this kind of like general understanding that helped, I think. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
there's any kind of direct, uh, you know, connection between being a music guy and a tech guy, but yeah.
Well, I think you really nailed it, man. Like being like the nature of where we're, and I know we're going to talk about TikTok in a little bit, but like users want to create content, and they've been doing it for free forever, and now I think they're sick of it, and they want to be compensated, whether that's through monetization or other means. They want to be compensated for making good content. And we're
Mhm.
seeing that across social media platforms, and that's extending. As I mean, it's extending into metaverse style environments like Roblox, like Zepeto, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. So I think that I think you're accurate there, but in that the sense of empathy that you bring to the table as a creator yourself, you're able to help to steer the company so that it creates the kind of environment that is going to be most welcoming, and most lucrative might be the right word, but most efficient for these creators to create new content and then potentially recognize the benefits that come from that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, speaking of like social media model, I mean, when you ask, what is metaverse, people may have a different answers. To me, the fundamental difference between the two Web2 social media model, or whether it's Web2 or 3, and the kind of metaverse type of model, I think it's about kind of really democratizing creativity and giving the power to the creators.
Mhm.
I can put it this way, on in social media space, even if you have a sizable amount of followers, let's say 1 million subscribers, TikTok followers, in order to make money, you have to put corporate brands in or in between your content, subtly, relevantly, whatever the case may be. The thing is, what I'm trying to get at is, you can't make money off of yourself as a brand. You need some sort of sponsorship,
Right.
unless you have capital, like Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian. Boom, there's my perfume or fashion brand line, right? Not
Right.
everybody can do that. I think but Zepeto is built on freemium model, so users actually buy digital currency out of their pocket, and they use that digital currency to buy digital goods from their favorite creators. So this is very natural when we think about what happens in the real world, right? Like, you earn money, or you get pocket money from your parents. You go to this flea market or open air food market, discover the artist or food vendor, restaurant owners, cafe owners you like, and you show your support by opening up your wallet, give it to them, get it. You don't go to this place where people say, hey, everything is free here, brought to you by the sponsors. You don't do that in the real world, right? So I think making making this economy like looking even similar to what we're familiar with in real world. That I think that's what's happening in Zepeto. Technology-wise, on-chain or off-chain, or like NFT as a means to verify your your ownership and scarcity. That's a nice to have, but I think what makes the most sense is, does this model make sense? Can I wrap my hands around it? And the social media space, I think a lot of kind of influencer creators have this struggle, this tension between, like, what if my fans do sponsor content? The other end, right? Like, but if I don't get paid by the brands, how do I pay my bills? How do I keep creating this content that our fans like? So you have to kind of wrestle through this question. But Zepeto, Roblox, or other versus, you can grow your brand and you become your brand. So like using that food and knowledge again, you are the chef, you're the owner, you're the marketing director, you're the creative director, whatever the title you can have. You are everything. You don't need to be a promoter of other brands selling your charms, but you have to get paid through those sponsorships.
So I'm curious what you think about because like there are a couple of other monetization models that we're starting to see gain traction. There's the Patreon model, which probably shouldn't necessarily be called the Patreon model, because there's Substack and there's other types of platforms that allow for donations for free content, leaning on someone's or leaning on a consumer's conscience to contribute to the content that they otherwise would be getting for free, right? And with Patreon and Substack, I think there are elements of premium content that can be unlocked, but in some cases it's not. It's simply just donating to a service that a user likes. I have several Patreon subscriptions that unlock access to things like a Slack channel or something like that. But I'm also a part of a Substack or two where I'm just giving $5 a month to a newsletter that I really enjoy. And so there are those that are there where the content is still free, but the user but a consumer pays for it. And then there's like the OnlyFans model where you have to pay in order to get access to the content, and the content is purely user generated, but it's behind a paywall, and users have to pay to access it. And I'm curious, where including both those two models and the quote unquote sponsorship model of partnering with brands, how do you see these platforms evolving? Like where do you see, and not necessarily, I'm not going to hold you to this at the end of the day, but like where do you see Metaverse going as far as users creating content and being compensated for it?
Sure. Okay, so premise first. I think like what YouTube showed us is basically, when you want to tell your stories in the form of a video, you don't have to own a network television, right? You don't have to own a Hollywood production. You can be a creator, bam, you publish and you can find a niche and you have an audience, right? That anyone can be a creator. You can tell your stories and you can find audience. That wave flows into 3D game, video game, animation-like space. That's how I see. And I think it's about adding a new dimension of interactions. So let's say, like newsletter, when you blog and when you get the article, like newsletter format, if the format is just purely text and there's another way to, subscribe, more high fidelity content, more in-depth content, but still form is the same. And maybe you get a kind of exclusive window that this content will be available for you for this amount of time, or, people can look at, 100 lines, but you have the full access. Forms is still the same. And that applies to the Patreon model too, right? Like, you have an early access to the content, but it's a video. Versus, hey, on here, what you can see is, getting the text or getting the video. But on here, you're not just getting the access to the physical goods or the same sort of video, but you can see, you can experience with this influencer who are exploring their own virtual 3D design, right? That's something new. What about hanging out with these people, with these influencers in this 3D space, taking virtual selfies together, playing mini games together, do a little bit of kind of trivia, quiz show type of experience, and you can record the scenes and share that moment, virtually captured moments with others. That's something you couldn't do on the other social media space. So I think it's about not getting the exclusive access or more kind of in-depth content, keeping the same form. And that, from users' perspective, it becomes more of a like donation, right? Like, I want to support this creator to keep, him or her doing whatever they've been working on because I love this person. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't become necessary because you're not buying that like a different experience, right? But when you buy the virtual clothing, you use it to express yourself, and you want to associate your identity with this creator, right? And that's what we do in our real life. When we ask people, hey, what do you think about this cause? If your heart is moved, please donate. Versus, hey, you get this item, you pay for this good or service, and it's your experience or it's the thing you can keep. That's a whole different story.
Mm-hmm. So almost like this mix of the Substack model versus straight up capitalism of I made a thing, you want the thing because that's what you associate yourself with. I will sell it to you either as a one-time purchase or something like as a service model.
It's a mutually beneficial, right? Like, you're looking for something unique to express. So you're buying this means as well as you're supporting this creator because you appreciate, their story or aesthetics, brand. So I think it should be both win-win. You can't really ask users to be kind and nice and, go extra miles, right?
Right. And I think exclusivity plays a role too, which is where everyone else's favorite buzzword NFTs come in that if everyone has it or if everyone can get it, then it loses its value. And so the idea of being able to mint something and tokenize it and have it be something that is exclusive for just a very small number of users, number of people, that then is another incentive for users to part with their hard-earned money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as you're getting NAVER Z and Zepeto off the ground in the US, what have been some hurdles that you have found in getting it off the ground, and what was the initial reaction by users in your experience or by partners?
Sure. The first hire was, her name is Patricia. She's actually based in New York. I got to know her through another friend of mine. So I was looking for someone who can hear from our community. So customer service, like CX manager. That was the first position I was looking for, because I saw App Store and Google Play Store page pretty much like, we didn't really reply to all this user, comments. So we basically didn't have a channel to collect the users' feedback from the US. So I hired Patricia. We started working on, started replying to all this comments on the App Store first. And our star rating on the App Store used to be 3.5. And as soon as we started, replying to all these comments and kind of gather the feedback and, putting it, forwarding that list of things that our users are suggesting to our product team, our star rating went up from like 3.5 to 4.7 within a few months.
Whoa.
So yeah, I think, like a startup, it's all about, hearing from users, because, a lot of times, especially the founders, I was there too. So I'm not just, like authorizing myself here. Yeah, we want to kind of build a great thing, right? Like we want to kind of prove that we're something like, to show the world and, to make the world a better place and all these kind of big ideas. And most of the times we fail to actually identify what the users are looking for. So yeah, first the hurdle was, okay, we're pretty much blinded. Like, what do US users want? Because Zepeto was born in Korea, meaning there's a lot of things that are not really catered to global audience. And from the aesthetics and the way the features are, the layout or all these kind of, even the localization, like a screen, like text, like does it sound okay? It sounds like a translated things that. There were tons of stuff we could work on to make the Zepeto experience more friendly to US users, and the only way to do it is to hear from the community. So building that channel, she's still here with us, and she's a valuable asset to the team. And from there we built a team of to work on the content programming, operation, and the content development, R&D, pretty much all areas, including trust and safety and developer relations. We're building up the team now.
Nice. So it sounds like building the proper team and putting that in place in order to support your users is a high priority for you.
It's not just a high priority. I think it defines the company's kind of culture, like a principle. Are we project driven? Do we have a world star product manager who can define the vision and strategy, and hey, these are the things that we're gonna do, these are the milestones, and these are our annual plan? We don't work that way. It's more like hey, what functions do we need, like what our users are looking for, how can we categorize those requirements, what team structure makes the most sense to address those, and what we could be doing within this quarter, and see if we could, it's just more about iteration and being super user centric and more product centered than project centered. I think that's kind of our culture, and that's what makes Zepeto Zepeto, because it has been the journey of listening to our users and delivering what they have been looking for.
So my next line of questioning was going to be about your community and how it's Zepeto's biggest and best asset. I'd like to stick on the topic of the team though, because it sounds like building that team has been really crucial to your success, and how the team might be the product's biggest and best asset. So how do you go about keeping the team engaged? If we can peek behind the curtain real quick, like how are you running? I imagine it's a distributed team. You mentioned that Patricia is in New York, and I think I know at least one other employee is in the New York area. How are you keeping the team engaged in this distributed fashion, and making sure that they're keeping that product vision in mind to make sure that the users and the communities are served in the best way possible?
Yeah, how to keep the team engaged in the midst of this pandemic has been a challenge. I think we're not the only team that's kind of navigating what would be the best way to do it. Because ever since I started building the team back in 2020, it was the pandemic began when the company through the acquisition of my previous startup, and as soon as it happened, the pandemic hit. So there was a good about that I haven't really got a chance to meet with people in person. So yeah, we need to know how to work remotely, and sometimes it maybe require kind of over communicating. Sometimes you have to kind of prepare the materials in advance to better communicate. We're kind of learning all these techniques or these kind of tools to keep the conversation going. In terms of the vision alignment, we've been doing a lot of kind of new stuff. For example, recently, as the team grows pretty quickly, we're onboarding more than 10 people in a month. So it used to be, hey, yeah, as soon as you come, this is your day one. But now we're doing this bi-weekly onboarding date, and I meet with everyone who joined the team. There's a CEO onboarding session, so I walk them through the history of Zepeto and where we are right now. What would be our goals? What each team does, and so they could just not be a part of the team that they were hired by, but also they can see the kind of whole picture. And there's an Ask Me Anything session, and recently I've been telling the whole teams, hey, if you're the leadership, the manager, bi-weekly sync with one-on-one with me is a must. For everyone else, at least bi-monthly, let's do one-on-one. So you can. I just want to make myself available for any kind of tips, questions, how you navigate. If you feel like there's something I could help, I could be of help. Yeah, so like really intentionality, because I think at the end of the day, it's we the people make communities, we make products. We need to be able to build trust, because if there's no trust, a lot of kind of things can happen, when we want to kind of criticize the ideas, not person, right? But sometimes when you're not sure if this, person's intent is really purely based on, being constructive, like making, just, like talking about the ideas, not attacking your personality. But if you don't have the trust, I mean, we cannot just blame people like, hey, you're insecure. Why don't you just be more mature? We can't ask that. So we have a set of kind of culture conversations going on in terms of what does failure mean here? What does feedback mean here? So we've been talking about, failure is an asset. Feedback is a gift. Without failure, there's no growth. I mean, and the growth comes with a little bit of pain. And we're coming from, I mean, the team members are coming from different industries. Some are from AAA studios, some are from startup founders, some are like from agencies, some are from platform tech companies. Pretty much all different area, because Zepeto is a little bit of everything, right? There's a social media element, there's a gaming element, there's a platform element. So inherently, we need to be able to talk to these people who may not speak the same language. So, building that kind of trust and environment where you could ask questions. Of course, we want ourselves to do our homework. If you can, get the answers through Google, you could do it. But, don't be afraid of asking questions. We've been talking about those kind of how to work, not just what. How to work here. We've been having that conversations too.
Yeah. I think those making yourself and the leadership available, as well as engaging in those skip level one-on-ones, I imagine is really valuable, especially at the growth stage that you're in. There's a question in the chat that leads us into the next area I wanted to ask you about what is the primary demographic, and how many total users are on the platform. Like I know you just passed a milestone, but taking that one level further, like what does that mean as a value add for your corporate partners? I know you have a lot of really amazing corporate partners, including some K-pop bands, including some major luxury brands as well. What does who is your audience, and what do they help you bring to the table that these partners can't get themselves?
Sure. So the demo, we have more than 300 million registered users. Back in 2021, our annual active users were about 100 million. And we have more than 20 million monthly active users. So just to put it into perspective, the monthly active user volume-wise, we're 10 to 40x bigger than the Sandbox or Decentraland. We're in between the crypto metaverse and Roblox, just volume-wise. And the demographic-wise, 13 through 24 kind of skewed toward female, largely. This is because we don't collect our users' personal information. This is done through the survey, so we don't have like this is our Zepeto user demo. We want to just believe that the survey we did was, the poll was good enough to kind of represent the whole, whole user database. But yeah, 13 through 24, more female. Zepeto users tend to identify with socializer than gamers, meaning there's a less, kind of spirit of this competition, achievement, dominating and mastery. Then, so the Zepeto users appreciate more like expression, socializing, connecting, caring for one another, kind of, that's kind of primary Zepeto's language. The brand wise, I think it's really Zepeto is an interesting place because in Roblox, the audience is kind of younger than us mostly, right? Because 8 through 13 is pretty huge in Roblox, and I think it's being game centric versus personality centric. So how I view is Roblox is very game centric. People remember games, but not necessarily who developed the games or who designed particular items. And if you try to imagine when you see an influencer on TikTok and click on their link tree, it's hard to imagine Roblox taking the spot, along with Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. But it's kind of easy for users to imagine Zepeto to be there because Zepeto is more like a social media, and everything is kind of centered around different personalities. And this means our users care about like customization of the avatar to express themselves. That's the primary core, not let's dress up something to go out the field and do something. So that kind of draws a lot of attentions especially from fashion brands. Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that you're finding an audience and creating an environment for them where interaction is more important than competition. Mm-hmm. and the nature of how someone presents themselves is key in the quality of interaction that they're having. And is that where some of these brand partnerships come into play? Like some of these brands allow your users to express themselves in unique ways that make them feel more themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you could think about this because, when you have a virtual being, you could create an avatar that looks like yourself, or you could just, explore something totally imaginary, right? What happens to me if I want to be like a 35-year-old female instead? Like, I mean, you can create multiple characters, and a lot of our like Zepeto users have multiple characters, and they tend to have this, they write kind of backstories, personas behind it, and it's all about customizing the characters. When you have some scenarios in mind, what kind of items would best describe this person's personality? And the branded goods, or Zepeto official items, or the creator items, all of these things become the tools to express whatever you had in mind, like envisioning that persona. So yeah, that I think the ability to customize avatar or characters and expressing it through through digital clothing, or putting in a digital space, that draws a lot of attention from the fashion brands, because they want to kind of explore what it's like to be part of this Gen Z. How do I put it? Like how they play, right? Like I use this analogy. Zepeto users don't come. I don't think Zepeto users come to Zepeto to play Zepeto as a game. Like Riot in League of Legends, and you go to League of Legends to play League of Legends, and you happen to play with other players, whether you know them or not, right? But but people come to Zepeto to hang out with their friends, fans, stars, and other people for that experience, for that interactions. So I mean, we were talking about like a very different side of kind of interactive experience. Let's say I can totally imagine Zepeto users spending time, sharing tips about like makeups and, making comments on their style outfit, outfit styling and the way they act, using what kind of animation to express this emotion, just doing those kind of, interactions without, this urge to, oh, I want to level up. I want to beat, this competition. Yeah. So that the nature of that, connecting with people through creativity and, sharing this sentiment more than like team up to kind of achieve something. That makes Zepeto pretty unique in this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious about that. Are you currently early enough and unique enough that you don't have a direct competitor?
That's a great question too. So like we have this, different angles. So for example, when we view Zepeto as a social media, yeah, TikTok, Snapchat, all this kind of, social media could be our competitors. What happens if TikTok launches a new platform where users can create all these avatars and do interactive things, and you get the direct link from TikTok. Yeah, so we can be compared to social media who's exploring like 3D space, right? And we can compare ourselves to Roblox. There's a difference, but that the nature of the being a platform where you can submit your design or games, and there's a marketplace, there's a discovery, playback. Yeah, to that nature, we can be compared to Roblox, and also we can be compared to other content creation tool. For example, traditionally like Maya, Blender, all this kind of modeling, editing tools. What if we have a lot, easier to use creation, like 3D content creations tool, so these people can try out, like unleash their creativity without having to really be nervous about like learning new tools. So yeah, depending on what angle we're looking at, yeah, there are competitors. I don't know who could be our direct competitors, because because of this nature, Zepeto have a multiple elements to describe what it is.
So what role, and this comes from another question in the chat, from Eric, what sort of role have these other platforms like TikTok and social media played into the growth of Zepeto in the US or globally, if that's different?
Yeah, they play a huge role. So when you go TikTok and look for the hashtag Zepeto, hashtag Zepeto has the latest I checked, it has 15 billion views. To put it into perspective, let's talk about the other kind of avatar kind of apps. IMView, Sims, Avakin Life, Animal Crossing. I hope you guys understand at least one or two. 15 billion views. It's more than all this products combined.
Wow.
So these products have been around for like decades, right? But we were pretty new compared to them. So the UGC portion is not just a nice addition. It's a fundamental. It's core. It's the key to our success, because we don't pay much like paid ads. We rely on, our success relies on really like a user generated creation. So we're all about how can we help our users tell their stories, express themselves in different ways easily, and also, like customizable enough for those who are willing to, push the boundaries. How can we help them express themselves? And they're the ones who make all this, TikTok video, Instagram content, and post them to the social media. So a lot of our traffic, just through this organic, happens organically. And there's a role for PGC content too. Like you mentioned, our partnership with YG Entertainment around BLACKPINK. When there was a Zepeto version of music video, I think the Ice Cream, BLACKPINK and Selena Gomez got like 100 something million views on YouTube. So a lot of people get to know about Zepeto through those, content they see on social media, and that doesn't just apply to us, but it applies to Roblox too. I believe that if there was no YouTube, if there was no, user-generated content about and happened in Roblox, like captured in Roblox, then yeah, Roblox couldn't really make that kind of huge success.
Mm-hmm. So as these platforms, and you mentioned like what would happen if TikTok suddenly created a feature that began to compete with some of the value, the unique value that you're providing to your users. I'm curious how you, with only a few minutes left, like how do you have a lot of assets at your disposal, right? You have an amazing team that's distributed around the world. You have an amazing community of users who are interacting with each other and are finding themselves or finding a sense of themselves in your environment. And you also have these corporate partners that you've worked with who have helped to push the community forward and provide value. So I guess one of my final questions is, how do you see Zepeto evolving as Web3 and NFTs and the broader decentralization movement continue to gain momentum? I imagine that it's on your mind how to create defensible value even as the environment changes rapidly, as much as you're able without giving too much away. Like, what does that look like for you in the next 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, in terms of NFT decentralization, I think the criteria for us is, do our users want it? Do our users care about it, for example? And is the technology, is the accessibility, or is the scalability ready to handle hundreds of millions of users and billions of transactions? We have sold more than a billion items so far. So I mean, that matters. We would be very careful because we care about the trust, like this trust that our community we built with our community. That's the most important thing. We don't want to just pursue the hype and like we're going to adopt the NFT technologies and push our users. Hey, I hope you get it. I hope you know what the wallet means. I hope you know what the vault means. I hope you know what transfer protocols, all these things to cash out, whatever your creation, right? So we'll be pretty careful. I'm not saying that we're not considering at all, but the decision-making point would be, do our users want it? Is the readiness wise, are we there? Yeah, that could kind of sum up our stance about NFT adoption. And so I think being users care less about whether it's an on-chain or off-chain or 2 or 3. And traditionally we saw, like if Facebook was trying to build something like Instagram, for them it was better to acquire an Instagram because users couldn't really wrap their head around like this being a new addition. So I think I'm kind of hopeful that the community trust we built so far is pretty solid. So when there's a competition from other social media angle, I mean, they have to navigate, they have to kind of tackle the problem. How can they convince their users to this different model? Like now, you have to open up your wallet. The things are not things you're not used to, but probably, or they have to figure out if they want to continue to keep that kind of advertising, based model, what would it make sense for users to, go through kind of smooth transition into this more ownership focused and, creator economy.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's a role to play, and you can hire me as a strategist if you want to. I'm wondering if there's a role to play for a platform like Zepeto, easing users into the practice of having a crypto wallet, of using that to purchase assets, or like in the chat, licensed content, using the purchasing and the storing of tokenized content or NFTs, which essentially is just a verification of property rights, the fact that they own these assets. And I even think that gets into
Sure.
Scott's question in the chat of metaverse style fashion migrating into the real world environment, where so far what we've seen are corporate brands in the real world, like Nike or something, or Supreme, creating metaverse or NFT or virtual assets. So the question is, and I think Scott hits at something where I don't even know if he knows he's doing it. Will there be fashion brands that start in the metaverse that then migrate out into the real world? I don't think we've seen that yet, but that'll be really interesting if we do. Do you see that happening in the next year or so?
I think it could totally happen. I mean, in terms of the translating the virtual native, fashion items to the physical world, there could be a little challenges. What if, this virtual item have like LED thing going on and projecting this, interesting thing on the surface, when you would probably find it challenging to implement it in the real world. And I think in terms of bridging the gap between the virtual reality and the physical reality, I think that reality would happen, but what we will see before that is, what does the same item would look like in Zepeto and in Roblox and in Sandbox, the Decentraland? What about the interoperability between these different virtual spaces first? Because when you get this item and you want to keep this item and you be able to use different cross platforms, so that problem should be kind of addressed first before seeing these virtual items being translated into the physical tangible item.
Yeah, I think you're right. Interoperability is really something that needs to happen. I don't know if it's independent of something like a brand starting in metaverse and then making its way to the real world, but I guess we'll see what happens. You're on the front lines of that, and if there's one thing that even my work in 5G has proven is that the market is going to come up with these solutions. We can try all we want to, but if the market wants it, the market's going to find a way to get it, and we better be there to provide those resources. Been a really incredible dialogue, and a special thank you to our audience for joining in. Jay, real quick, where can the audience go to learn more and to keep up with Zepeto?
That's a great question, because everything's been kind of manual so far, even hiring. We're working on our career page. So I would probably have to keep you updated when we have a career page ready. At the moment, you guys can check out our LinkedIn page. Yeah, it's kind of like embarrassing, but yeah, it's been a kind of manual process. I would love to, connect with you guys if you are interested in any kind of position. We're pretty much hiring all positions. So yeah, drop me a line. My email is open, jlee@naverz-corp.com. Yeah, so if you have any question, hey, are you looking for this kind of position? Please drop me a line. I would love to connect with you.
Fantastic. I just put what I think is your email in the chat, but we can go ahead and send out a follow-up email to all of the attendees with any of that information. So yeah, check out NAVER Z on LinkedIn. You can email Jay there. You can also you can just Google Zepeto. You can download the app there, as well as connect with them on social media. I've seen their Twitter account. It's pretty active. So that is a great way to keep in touch with them. The conversation has been recorded and will be available in the next few days. I'll put that in the follow-up email as well. And we'll be back next month with some more great stories from the entrepreneurship community. So be on the lookout for an announcement about our April event coming soon. We're also thinking about how to, and this is where I need your help, we're thinking about how to bring the community back together in person now that things are calming down pandemic-wise. If you have or know of a space where the Startup Grind community can begin coming together again, please let us know. Historically, that has meant office spaces that have really large open communal areas, but we're not opposed to looking into other types of venues. You can email nycteam@startupgrind.com if you have any suggestions there, or for any other questions about Startup Grind in general. Yeah, Scott says in person. What does that mean? Yeah, coming together, and then hopefully with a good virtual component where we can continue to engage our virtual audience no matter where they might be. community. We're hoping to get into that here in the next couple of months. You can find out more and view some of our previous interviews on startupgrind.com and searching for the NYC chapter, or by clicking this link here in the chat. I look forward to seeing everyone at our next event. Jay, thank you so much. This has been incredible. This has been super fun. I know we're 5 minutes over, but thank you again for being part of this and for helping us make sense of some of these new concepts that are coming into the forefront very quickly.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cool. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.